She'll never say it, but she's already turned off. There's something most men will never hear from a woman's mouth, not because she's hiding it, but because saying it out loud feels cruel, even if it's true. She won't tell you directly that she's no longer attracted to you. She won't spell out what shifted. She won't explain why her tone changed, why her replies got shorter, or why the connection started fading like a signal lost in a tunnel. But deep down, something switched off, and you didn't even notice. Here's the hard truth. Attraction doesn't disappear all at once. It erodes, slowly, quietly, through small behaviors that feel harmless, through habits you thought were just part of your personality, through hobbies that felt like innocent escape. But to her, they reveal something deeper. Something about how you lead, how you live, how you grow, or how you stall. She won't confront you about it, not directly, because she still respects you. Maybe she even still cares. But once a woman senses that you've stopped becoming the man she can admire, she begins a silent retreat. Her body stays, but her energy pulls back, and you're left wondering what happened. This isn't about shaming you. It's about awakening you, because the modern world has confused a lot of men. We've been told to be ourselves, follow our passions, and live freely. But no one told us how unchecked hobbies can quietly signal weakness, escape, or emotional immaturity. No one told us that what we think is normal might actually be sending the message that we're stuck. This video is your chance to see things differently, to step outside yourself and ask, not what you enjoy, but what your enjoyment is doing to your presence, your purpose, your power. Because attraction isn't built on interests alone. It's built on energy, leadership, clarity, and how a woman feels when she's around you. So stay with me. What you're about to hear may be uncomfortable, even a little surprising. But it's the kind of truth that separates the average guy from the man she can't forget. Let's talk about the 15 silent habits that slowly kill attraction without you even realizing. The 15 habits that quietly kill attraction. A woman doesn't just look at your words, your job, or your looks. She looks at how you spend your time, what you choose to engage with when no one's watching, what you're obsessed with when no one's forcing you. Because to her, your hobbies aren't just hobbies, they're signals. They say something about how you manage your energy, your emotional maturity, your drive, your vision. Your hobbies reveal what you value when life doesn't demand anything from you. And that matters more than you think. A man's free time shows who he really is. Anyone can put on a nice shirt for a date. Anyone can talk confidently for 30 minutes. But when you're alone, when you choose to dive into certain routines or distractions over and over again, it sends a message about what you're running from or what you're moving toward. Some hobbies are healthy outlets. Others are slow forms of escape. But the moment a hobby stops being something you enjoy and starts becoming your identity, you begin to lose something. You stop growing. You stop leading. You stop being fully present in the world around you. And a woman feels that. She might not say it directly, but her intuition tells her when you're stuck, when your passion is turned into avoidance, when your curiosity is morphed into comfort zones. This isn't a list meant to attack your interests. It's a wake-up call. If you find yourself getting defensive, that's okay. That's natural, but take a deep breath and listen. Because these next 15 habits may seem harmless on the surface, but underneath they can quietly erode the masculine edge that makes a woman feel safe, inspired, and drawn to you. Let's break them down, one by one. 1. The grown man still obsessed with comics. There's nothing wrong with appreciating a good story. Some of the greatest modern myths come from comic books. They've inspired generations, taught lessons about courage, justice, and sacrifice. But there's a sharp difference between enjoying a story and being consumed by it. And this is where the line gets blurry. When a man in his 30s or 40s builds his entire identity around comic books. When his room is filled with shelves of action figures, mint condition issues, posters, and collectibles. Something starts to shift in the way others perceive him, especially women. Because while men see nostalgia and passion, women often see emotional stunting. It's not about the comics themselves, it's about what the obsession represents. To many women, this kind of fixation feels like emotional regression. It signals that a man might still be clinging to a phase of life he should have evolved beyond. She sees a man who hasn't let go of boyhood, not because he can't, but because he won't. And that's the difference. A man who chooses comfort over challenge, fantasy over growth, familiarity over maturity. And the truth is, it's not just about attraction, it's about respect. A woman may not say it, but deep down, she wants to look at you and feel that you're grounded in the real world, that you're building something tangible, that your imagination fuels your ambition, not replaces it. She wants to see your hobbies enriching your life, not trapping you in a bubble. When a man talks about Spider-Man with the same intensity as someone discussing philosophy or purpose, it creates dissonance. It feels unbalanced. She might smile and nod, but something inside her pulls back. Not because she hates comics, but because she starts to wonder if you're emotionally available to build something real with her. Something present. Something alive. Enjoy what you love. Keep what makes you smile. But ask yourself, is this hobby a part of me? Or has it become who I am? Because a man who knows the difference doesn't need to let go of his passions to grow. He simply needs to rise above them. 2. Cosplay isn't the problem, but escaping reality is. Creativity is attractive. Playfulness is attractive. Dressing up for fun, attending events, expressing passion through costume design, these aren't the real issues. In fact, a confident man who can enjoy life without shame can be magnetic. But the moment cosplay becomes a lifestyle, a mask that blurs the line between fantasy and reality, something deeper begins to unravel. Women don't dislike cosplay. What they sense is when a man is using it to live in a world that doesn't challenge him. When the costume becomes a shield from responsibility. When the conventions, the online forums, the endless hours spent crafting fictional personas start to replace real-world action, connection, and leadership. That's when the energy changes. That's when admiration turns to quiet concern. It's not just the dressing up. It's the underlying message: I feel more alive pretending to be someone else than I do becoming who I really am. That's what sets off the internal alarm. She won't tell you directly. She might even support your hobby. But slowly, she will start to feel like she's dating a boy playing make-believe, not a man building a real future. Attraction isn't about being serious all the time. It's about being real. And when your energy is more vibrant in costume than in conversation, more animated in character than in your own skin, she feels the disconnection. It creates a gap between who you are with her and who you are with your fandom. And that gap grows over time. There's a difference between visiting a fantasy world and trying to live there. One recharges you, the other removes you. And when a man becomes so immersed in an alter ego that the real him starts fading, she begins to lose the man she was trying to know in the first place. Cosplay can be fun, expressive, even sexy in the right context. But it must never replace the work of becoming grounded, strong, intentional. Because no matter how impressive the costume, what truly draws her in is the man underneath it, and whether that man is still fully alive in his own story. 3. Debate me, bro, and watch her emotionally clock out. There's a type of man who's always ready to argue. He sees conversation as a battlefield, every opinion as a challenge, every disagreement as an invitation to dominate. He lives to win debates. He calls it being logical, rational, sharp. But what he doesn't see is how quickly women check out when they feel like they're being cross-examined instead of being heard. At first, she might admire your intelligence. She might be intrigued by your passion. But when every dinner turns into a courtroom, every light topic spirals into a contest of facts, stats, or who can prove their side better, the emotional temperature drops fast. Because deep down, she's not looking to be convinced. She's looking to be connected with. And connection dies in the presence of constant correction. It's not that women don't want strong opinions. They respect clarity, confidence, and conviction. What turns them off is the energy behind needing to be right. That subtle tone of superiority. The smug corrections. The inability to simply let something go. It creates pressure, not presence. Combat, not comfort, and attraction withers under that weight. When a woman shares something personal, and your first instinct is to fact-check her or challenge her logic, she doesn't feel seen, she feels dismissed. She starts to hold back, not because she fears you, but because it's exhausting trying to emotionally connect with someone who treats every sentence like a thesis to be dissected. You don't need to win conversations to earn her respect. In fact, the opposite is true. The more you listen without interrupting, the more you ask without interrogating, the more she feels safe to open up. And in that space, attraction grows, because real strength doesn't need to dominate. It knows when to hold still. There's a time to debate, with your boys, on a stage, in business, but in relationships, especially early on, the most attractive energy is curiosity, not conquest. So next time you feel the urge to argue, pause. Ask yourself if your need to be right is costing you the very connection you're trying to build. Because being right feels good, but being understood feels better. And she's not here to compete with you. She's here to see if you're the kind of man who can make her feel emotionally safe even when you disagree. 4. Why your drinking habit makes you less of a man. Having a drink is not the problem. Sharing a whiskey with friends, toasting to something meaningful, or unwinding after a long week can be part of a balanced life. But when drinking stops being occasional and starts becoming your default coping mechanism, that's when the quiet damage begins. And whether she says it or not, she feels it. To a woman, alcohol isn't just a beverage. It's a symbol. It represents how you handle stress, how you celebrate, how you relax, how you process pain. And when your go-to answer for everything, boredom, pressure, sadness, even happiness, is to drink, she starts to question your ability to self-regulate. And with that, her trust in your emotional stability begins to crack. It's not the drink in your hand, it's what that drink replaces. Time you could spend building something, energy you could direct into purpose, moments of presence that alcohol slowly blurs. A man who drinks in moderation and with intention can still command respect. But a man who drinks without boundaries starts to feel unpredictable, even unreliable. The worst part is when drinking becomes part of your identity, when you laugh off your hangovers like war stories, when every social plan involves getting drunk, when being the fun guy starts to mask deeper discontent. It's attractive at first, easygoing, entertaining, loose. But the longer it goes on, the more she begins to see what's underneath a man trying to numb, avoid, or escape. Women are biologically wired to look for safety, not just physical safety, but emotional security. They want to feel that the man beside them is in control not of her, but of himself. And nothing signals a lack of self-control more subtly than a man who always reaches for the bottle before reaching for clarity. You don't have to stop drinking to keep her respect. But you do have to be honest about why you drink. If it's just for taste, celebration, and connection, she'll feel that, But if it's to silence something inside you, she'll feel that too, and it'll push her away, even if she doesn't know why. Because in the end, it's not about the alcohol. It's about presence, purpose, and the quiet confidence of a man who doesn't need a drink to be powerful, steady, or fully alive. 5. The card game that turns women off instantly. Strategic thinking is admirable, intelligence is magnetic, and games that challenge the mind, like Magic: The Gathering or similar collectible card games, can sharpen your ability to analyze, plan, and adapt. But when that passion consumes your evenings, dominates your weekends, and takes up your mental real estate, it starts sending a very different message. To most women, the issue isn't the game itself, it's the world you disappear into when you play, the rules, the expansions, the terminology, the hours spent building decks and obsessing over combinations. It all feels incredibly distant from the shared reality she's trying to connect with. She sees a man who is more emotionally invested in fictional battles than in real-world presence. And no matter how brilliant your strategy, it becomes hard for her to feel emotionally close to someone who's mentally checked out. There's a reason it turns her off. Not because the hobby is childish, but because it can look like avoidance disguised as complexity. She doesn't see a playful mind. She sees a withdrawn one. A man who channels his energy into something controllable, predictable, and insulated rather than into the messy, challenging, deeply rewarding world of human interaction and growth. It also signals a particular kind of comfort zone, a place where a man feels mastery and control, in contrast to the real world, where stakes are higher and outcomes are uncertain. That contrast tells her that when life gets overwhelming, this is where you'll go, not to her, not into action, but back into the safe terrain of turn orders and fantasy logic. She won't mock it. She may even try to learn it, for your sake. But eventually, if she sees that this game occupies more space in your life than ambition, leadership, or emotional growth, something inside her quietly detaches. Not because she doesn't respect your mind, but because she doesn't feel it being applied to anything beyond the game board. Enjoy the game. Play with friends. Let it be a fun layer of your life, but never let it become your main arena. Because a man who brings strategy to life, who moves with focus and clarity in the real world, is far more attractive than one who wins 1,000 rounds in a world that doesn't exist outside his imagination. 6. Anime addiction. It's not just cartoons to her. Anime is more than just entertainment. It's art. It's storytelling. It can be deep, emotional, even philosophical. Some of it explores life, death, love, discipline, identity, and the struggle between light and shadow. And enjoying anime doesn't make you immature. But there's a fine line between appreciation and addiction, and when that line is crossed, the attraction begins to fade. Here's what she sees. A man who stays up late binging entire seasons. A man who prioritizes fictional characters over shared moments. A man whose room is filled with figurines, posters, and dialogue memorized from shows he's watched 5 times already. To you, this is passion. To her, it often feels like emotional retreat. It's not that she hates anime. It's that she feels like she's dating someone who has one foot in another world. A world where stakes are scripted, relationships are idealized, and the hero always levels up after enough training arcs. But real life isn't like that. Real connection takes more than fan theories and reaction videos. It takes presence, grit, and emotional maturity. What makes this especially challenging is that anime often fills emotional gaps. It gives men something they feel the real world lacks: honor, simplicity, loyalty, meaning. But when you start needing that more than the reality around you, women sense it. They feel like they're competing with a fantasy they can't ever live up to. Not because they're not enough, but because the fantasy is built to be perfect. While they're human, a woman doesn't need you to quit watching anime, but she needs to know you're grounded in real experiences. That you're investing more in becoming the main character in your actual life than worshiping one in someone else's creation. That you can enjoy stories without hiding inside them. Anime should inspire you, not replace you. It should be a spark for growth, not a substitute for courage. If you take the lessons of perseverance and transformation and apply them to your real life, she'll feel that strength. But if you only live inside the glow of the screen, you'll slowly lose the depth of connection that only reality can offer. And she'll feel it long before you do. 7. Makeup, filters, and the death of masculine energy. There's nothing wrong with wanting to look good. Grooming matters, hygiene matters. Taking pride in your appearance shows self-respect. But there's a tipping point where effort becomes obsession, where style becomes vanity, and where self-care crosses into self-distortion. And once that happens, something subtle but powerful starts to fade: your masculine edge. When a man starts wearing makeup regularly, using beauty filters on every photo, or editing his appearance to the point where even he no longer recognizes the original image, women feel it. Not always consciously, but energetically. Because the essence of masculinity isn't perfection, it's presence. And when your entire image becomes curated, polished, and filtered beyond recognition, you start to lose the very roughness that makes you real. It's not about the makeup itself. It's about what it implies. That you're more concerned with how you appear than how you show up. That you're chasing an aesthetic ideal instead of owning who you truly are. And while many women may support the idea of men expressing themselves through style or artistry, they also crave something raw, something unfiltered, something that feels grounded and honest. When every selfie is perfected, when every blemish is erased, and every flaw is hidden, it doesn't read as confidence. It reads as insecurity. And a man who constantly seeks to perfect his surface often reveals a fear of being seen underneath. Women are drawn to men who are unapologetically themselves, not careless, not sloppy, but rooted, solid, real. What's often forgotten is that masculinity carries its own form of beauty, one that doesn't need highlighters or concealer. It lives in stillness, certainty, resilience. The quiet confidence in showing your face as it is, your skin as it breathes, your eyes as they speak without filters. That's what she responds to. Not artificial symmetry, but authentic presence. There's nothing wrong with experimenting, with expressing, with refining your style. But if you find yourself needing filters to feel worthy, if you can't leave the house without painting on a mask, ask yourself what part of you you're trying to hide. Because no matter how flawless the image, she won't fall for a version of you that you don't fully accept yourself. She's not looking for perfection. She's looking for a man who doesn't need it. 8. Crypto talk, when your personality becomes a portfolio. Investing is smart. Financial literacy is attractive. Ambition, when paired with discipline, can elevate a man's entire life. But there's a moment when your passion for crypto, stocks, or any financial movement stops being about wealth building and starts becoming your entire identity. And that's when women start to pull away. At first, your knowledge might impress her. You talk about market trends, future technology, passive income. You seem focused and intelligent. But if every conversation circles back to Ethereum, Bitcoin, NFTs, or your latest play, she starts to feel like she's not dating a man, she's dating a portfolio. What you see as excitement, she begins to feel as obsession, and not just with money, but with control. You start speaking in graphs and projections. You measure everything in ROI. Your emotions rise and fall with market volatility. And what she's left with is a man whose energy is tethered to things he can't control, while becoming emotionally unavailable in the moment. This kind of tunnel vision makes it hard to connect. You're not present. You're distracted. You're always checking charts, listening to finance podcasts, or thinking about how to leverage everything. It's not that ambition is unattractive. It's that when your world shrinks to numbers, screens, and speculation, you begin to lose touch with the real human experience she's trying to share with you. Women don't hate crypto. What they hate is emotional detachment. When your idea of conversation becomes a constant lesson in digital markets, they feel like you're lecturing, not relating. They feel like they're being pitched, not understood. And over time, that energy-intense, self-focused, transactional kills intimacy. True masculine power is not just about growing assets. It's about growing awareness. Knowing when to lead a conversation and when to simply be present. Knowing how to build wealth without letting it define your entire value. The man who understands money but is not consumed by it becomes deeply attractive. Because he's anchored. He's grounded. He's not ruled by gain or loss. So keep investing and keep building. But don't become your portfolio. Don't let your worth rise and fall with numbers on a screen. Because she doesn't want a walking spreadsheet. She wants a man who knows where he's going and still remembers how to connect along the way. 9. Cigar worship. Are you impressing her or yourself? A cigar can carry an image, sophistication, power, leisure. It has long been associated with celebration and dominance, with men who command rooms and savor control. But the truth is, there's a fine line between enjoying a cigar and performing masculinity. And when that line is crossed, women feel the difference. She doesn't necessarily mind the cigar. It's not about the smoke. It's about what the ritual starts to represent. When lighting up becomes less about enjoyment and more about projecting an image, it stops being authentic. She senses when you're doing it for the experience and when you're doing it to feel more like a man. Men often lean into cigars to capture something they believe will raise their status. The aura of the gentleman, the power of the mogul, the coolness of being unbothered. But if it's just for show, if you're not truly grounded in who you are, it reads as try hard. And women are incredibly sensitive to that kind of performance. There's also the lifestyle association. Cigar lounges, flashy accessories. The constant need to post the moment it can all start to feel hollow. It's a mask of luxury that sometimes covers a lack of substance. And when a woman sees a man putting more care into his image than into his growth, she begins to lose interest. Not because she's anti-luxury, but because she wants alignment, real inner strength matching outer presence. On a deeper level, the obsession with cigars can signal stagnation. A man who sits back too often, who leans into comfort, who indulges in a fantasy of success without the consistent work behind it. It can start to feel like you're celebrating an empire that hasn't been built yet. The most attractive energy isn't manufactured masculinity, it's effortless certainty. If you enjoy cigars, do it because it brings you peace, not because you think it will make you look powerful. Because when you're centered, when your confidence is quiet and real, that's when she feels safe. That's when she feels drawn in. In the end, a cigar is just an object. But how you hold it while you light it can say everything. Make sure it's saying something true, not to impress her, not to impress the world, but as a reflection of the man you actually are, with or without the smoke. 10. The clubbing illusion. Fun on the surface, empty inside. Going out isn't the issue. Dancing, music, energy, movement. These are all parts of a vibrant life. But when the club becomes your second home, when weekends revolve around flashing lights, loud beats, and fleeting encounters, women start seeing something that most men overlook. She doesn't see freedom. She sees emptiness. At first, it looks fun. You're social, spontaneous, always in the scene. But after a while, the pattern becomes predictable. Same venues, same drinks, same people, same noise. And eventually, she starts to wonder, what exactly are you chasing out there? Because it's not just about the party. It's about the signal it sends. A man who spends his nights seeking stimulation often lacks deeper structure during the day. For many women, the club is associated with a certain kind of man, the one who avoids stillness, the one who needs distraction to feel alive, the one who confuses attention for connection. She may dance with you, laugh with you, even go home with you, but when it comes to building something real, her energy shifts, because she doesn't want to build a life with someone who's always escaping their own. There's also a question of direction. A man whose lifestyle revolves around clubs may give off the vibe that he's not moving forward, that he's stuck in a loop of temporary highs and shallow validation. It's not the environment that bothers her, it's the lack of progression. When a man keeps repeating the same night year after year, she starts to see him as emotionally stagnant, even if he's financially successful or socially popular. What makes this worse is when clubbing becomes your identity. When your wardrobe, your Instagram, your stories are all curated around nightlife. She wants to know who you are at 2 p.m. on a Sunday, not just 2 a.m. on a Saturday. Because real masculinity shines in structure, in quiet leadership, in the ability to say no to noise and yes to purpose. Have fun. Go out. Dance once in a while. But don't make the club your compass. Because if all your energy is poured into the night, there won't be much left for the morning. And eventually she'll stop showing up for the evening because she knows you won't be there when the lights come on. It's not what you do, it's why you do it. So let's pause for a moment. You might be thinking, wait, but she watches anime too. She plays card games. She even smokes cigars once in a while. Why would she judge me for doing the same? That's a fair question, and the answer is deeper than just shared interests. You see, it's not the hobby that turns her off. It's how you show up inside that hobby. It's the energy you carry, the intention behind your passion, and the way it shapes your identity. When a woman engages with a hobby, it's usually part of a broader, balanced life. It's one layer of her, not the entire surface. But when she sees a man whose entire personality revolves around one activity, whose sense of self begins and ends with that obsession. She doesn't feel connection, she feels contraction. She senses that you're hiding behind the hobby instead of expanding through it. The truth is, a hobby becomes unattractive when it becomes a mask, when it's used to escape discomfort, when it's used to replace growth, when it distracts you from real-world purpose. She might love the same show, enjoy the same game, even laugh at the same memes, but if she sees that your life is built around that one thing, with no vision beyond it, her attraction fades. Because what she's really scanning for isn't entertainment, it's direction, it's drive. It's the signal that you're living with clarity and forward motion. A man can enjoy almost anything and still be magnetic if he holds it with intention, not addiction. So remember this, it's not what you do that makes her leave, it's why you do it. And if your why is rooted in avoidance instead of ambition, she'll sense it long before you do. 11. The chill stoner vibe that quietly repels her. Laid-back energy can be attractive. A man who's grounded, calm under pressure, and easy to be around creates a powerful sense of safety. But there's a difference between being calm and being numbed. And when your version of chill is built around being high all the time, women start to feel it not as peace, but as passivity. At first, she might even be drawn to the relaxed vibe. You're not overly reactive. You go with the flow. You seem unbothered by the chaos of the world. But as time goes on, that chill turns into emotional distance. Conversations get slower. Motivation fades. Responsiveness dulls. And slowly, she starts to realize she's not in the presence of a calm man, she's with someone who's simply disconnected. When marijuana becomes part of your daily rhythm, when it moves from occasional enjoyment to habitual reliance, the energy you bring into relationships shifts. You're not sharp, you're not decisive, you're not fully present. She might not say anything at first, but deep down, she's feeling the absence of leadership, the absence of masculine fire. You're still there physically, but something vital is missing. That edge, that clarity, that drive to move forward. And no matter how relaxed you are, if it feels like you've lost your ambition, your urgency, or your spark, she can't fully trust your ability to lead yourself or the relationship. What's worse is when you defend it as your lifestyle. When being high becomes part of your identity, when your weekends blur into a haze of couch sessions, video games, and takeout, that's when it stops looking like freedom and starts looking like stagnation. This isn't about judgment, so it's about direction. A woman wants to know that you can feel everything: stress, joy, boredom, uncertainty, and still choose to act, still choose to lead. Still choose to show up with presence and focus. The weed, like any substance that can dull that presence. And no matter how cool your vibe is, if she feels like you're floating through life without traction, she'll slowly drift away. Because what pulls her in isn't how chill you are, it's how alive you are. And if she senses you've put that fire out, even quietly, her attraction will fade with it. Fade. 12. Still collecting toys. She's collecting red flags. There's something deeply human about nostalgia. Holding on to memories from childhood, cherishing moments that shaped us, honoring the stories that made us feel alive. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. In fact, it shows sensitivity, emotional depth, and appreciation for meaning. But when nostalgia becomes a lifestyle, when toy collecting turns from sentimental joy into full-blown identity, women start to feel something they rarely say out loud: a quiet sense of immaturity. To you, those figures, models, and shelves of collectibles might represent stories, comfort, or creativity. But to her, especially when the collection becomes an obsession, it starts to signal something else. She doesn't see strength. She sees retreat. She sees a man who may be emotionally stuck in a time when things were simpler and responsibilities didn't exist. The issue isn't that you own toys. It's when those toys own you. When they take up more space than growth, more budget than self-development, more conversation than vision. She starts to wonder if he's this attached to the past. How ready is he to build a future? It's not about being serious all the time. Playfulness is important. Lightness is attractive. But when your space looks more like a childhood bedroom than a man's living environment, she feels it. Not as whimsy, but as emotional stalling. And deep down, she craves presence, not preservation. There's also a subtle shift in dynamic when a man's identity is rooted in collecting fictional characters. She may struggle to see him as one, a character, a presence, a real man standing with her in the now. She doesn't want to compete with plastic for your attention. She wants to feel like she's walking beside someone with depth, not someone frozen in childhood habits. You can keep what matters to you. No one's asking you to throw it all away. But ask yourself, are these things part of my story? Or are they replacing the one I should be writing now? Because the man who honors his past without clinging to it is far more attractive than the one who lives inside it. She's not judging your toys. She's watching who you become around them. 13. The online warrior. She secretly pities. In today's world, it's easier than ever to share opinions, argue points, and jump into endless debates online. From comment sections to forums to long-winded Facebook rants, the digital battlefield is always open. And for some men, it becomes a habit, a daily ritual of proving people wrong, calling out ignorance, and flexing intellectual muscle. But here's the harsh reality while you're fighting strangers online. She's quietly losing respect for you. She sees the hours you spend arguing with faceless profiles. She notices how your mood changes after an online fight. She hears you venting about idiots on the internet more than you talk about real goals. And what you think is passion, she feels as misdirected energy. To her, you're not fighting for truth. You're wasting your fire. She's wondering why a man with that much intelligence and conviction chooses to burn it all in spaces that produce nothing but more noise. Why you react more strongly to a stranger's comment than to her needs. Why you seem more emotionally engaged with controversy than with connection. At first, she might find it amusing, maybe even admirable that you stand your ground. But over time, it begins to wear thin. Because while you're chasing arguments, you're not chasing growth. You're not building. You're not leading. You're not present. And your need to always win becomes exhausting. She wants a man who knows when to walk away, who doesn't need to prove himself to people who don't matter, who saves his energy for building something real, not tearing others down online. Because in her eyes, the man who argues constantly in the digital world often feels powerless in the real one. This isn't about silence. It's about direction. Use your voice where it counts. Let your strength be felt through actions, not just typed words. Because if your keyboard gets more attention than your purpose, she'll eventually tune out, not because she disagrees with you, but because she no longer feels you're fully here with her. 14. Porn isn't a pastime. It's a slow self-destruction. No one talks about it openly, but everyone knows it's there. For many men, porn becomes a daily ritual, something that feels harmless, private, and even stress-relieving. But beneath the surface, it slowly rewires your mind, dulls your senses, and erodes the very traits that make you magnetic to women in the first place. To her, it's not just about the fact that you watch. It's about what it reveals. Porn isn't just a habit, it's a mirror, a reflection of how you manage your desires, your emotions, and your energy. When she senses that your intimacy is outsourced to a screen, when real moments feel less urgent than virtual ones, she starts to disconnect. Not because she's jealous of pixels, but because she feels something vital in you slipping away. Here's what porn does that most men don't notice. It drains your drive. It kills your urgency. It trains your brain to expect reward without effort. And the more you indulge, the more numb you become, not just sexually, but emotionally. She feels it in your eye contact, in your touch, in your presence. You're there, but not fully alive. You respond, but with less edge. You connect, but with less depth. Over time, it also distorts your standards. You begin comparing real women to scripted fantasies, expecting performances instead of presence. That comparison makes you impatient, dissatisfied, disconnected. And no matter how loving or intimate she is, she'll always feel like she's competing with an illusion that doesn't sleep, doesn't speak, and never says no. But most of all, it signals something deeper, a lack of control. A man who can't master his impulses is a man who can't lead. And leadership, at its core, begins with self. When you're leaking energy day after day, you don't just lose testosterone, you lose clarity, motivation, and the edge that makes you feel unstoppable. She may never bring it up directly, but she feels it. She feels the gap between who you could be and who you've settled into becoming. She feels the emptiness left behind every time you chase short-term pleasure instead of long-term presence. You want to be more focused, more grounded, more attractive. Start here. Cut the leak. Take your energy back. Because a man who commands his desires doesn't chase images, he creates real connection. And she's waiting for that version of you to show up. 15. Gambling, the thrill that makes you unstable. On the surface, gambling looks bold. It suggests risk-taking, adrenaline, and confidence. The idea of putting something on the line and walking away with more has an undeniable appeal. But when the bets become regular, when the thrill becomes addictive, and when the financial risk starts bleeding into everyday life, what once looked daring quickly becomes destructive. To her, gambling isn't about the money, it's about what the habit reveals about your relationship with control. A man who gambles frequently often sends the message that he's chasing chaos. He might say he loves the rush, but what she feels is unpredictability, instability, and a creeping sense of danger. Not physical danger, but emotional and financial volatility. The sense that nothing is ever secure around you. Attraction is built on trust, and trust requires consistency. When she sees you place bets, borrow money, chase losses, or talk obsessively about odds, she stops feeling like she's building with someone grounded. Instead, she feels like she's boarding a ship without a captain adrift, hopeful, but heading toward eventual collapse. It's not just the casino or the poker night. It's the pattern, the celebration after a win that feels inflated, the silence after a loss that feels heavy, the shift in your mood that no longer reflects your life but reflects the numbers on a screen or a card in your hand. That emotional instability doesn't inspire confidence, it quietly erodes it. She wants to believe in your judgment. She wants to feel safe with your decisions. And when gambling becomes a part of your routine, it makes her wonder how you'll handle life's real stakes: family, commitment, responsibility. Will you double down when things get hard, or will you fold under pressure? This isn't a call to live without any risk. In fact, women are deeply drawn to men who take calculated risks in business, in life, in growth. But the key word is calculated, controlled, purposeful. Gambling offers the illusion of power, but often masks the loss of it, and she knows the difference. A man who bets on himself doesn't need cards or machines. He builds his luck through vision, patience, and discipline. And that's the kind of gamble she'll always be willing to invest in because it's backed by real strength, not fleeting chance. Don't quit your hobbies, but don't let them own you. This isn't a call to abandon what you love. You don't need to throw away your comic books, sell your cards, stop watching anime, or never have a drink again. Your hobbies are a part of you. They bring you joy, help you decompress, and give you a sense of identity. But when your identity becomes fully defined by them, when you disappear inside them, you stop being the man she was drawn to. A woman doesn't want a man without passion. She doesn't want someone who's serious all the time or constantly grinding without rest. She wants depth, playfulness, and curiosity. But what she truly craves is direction. Growth, a man whose passions complement his purpose, not replace it. Every hobby you've heard about in this video isn't inherently unattractive. It's the imbalance that creates the problem. The unchecked obsession, the avoidance of real challenges, the slow withdrawal from life into a comfort zone that looks innocent but slowly erodes ambition, clarity, and presence. She doesn't need you to be perfect. She just wants to feel that you're moving forward with or without her. Because here's what she's really watching: how you lead yourself, how you respond to boredom, stress, and uncertainty, how you manage your time, your energy, and your attention. She's not looking for a flawless man. She's looking for a man who's aware of his flaws and still chooses to grow through them. So keep your hobbies, enjoy them, but hold them loosely and let them serve your life, not shape it. Let them reflect your freedom, not your dependence. Because a man who can step away from his comforts when it's time to rise is a man who commands respect. A man who turns his attention toward purpose, toward impact, toward something bigger than himself. That's the man she stays for. You don't have to give anything up to become more attractive. You just have to stop hiding in what's familiar. Because when your energy shifts from consumption to creation, from escape to expansion, from fantasy to forward motion, everything changes. And she'll feel that change long before you say a word.